race to lead America's fourth largest city, two familiar candidates have surged beyond the rest. With exactly 100 days until the election, can others catch fire and challenge down the stretch run? In the nation's capital, new charges against former President Trump. Did the Republican frontrunner commit obstruction by ordering evidence destroyed? And here in the Lone Star State, Attorney General Ken Paxton now facing a pair of trials for serial wrongdoing. Could a Harris County jury deliver what Texas senators may not? I'm Greg Krugen, and welcome to What's Your Point, where our panelists call it like they see it. Let's greet them. Apologize for the voice in advance. Starting us off, longtime Houston journalist and social worker Chow Win. Next up, Bob Price, associate editor of Breitbart, Texas. In the three spot, longtime super neighborhood leader Tamara Bell. Batting cleanup, attorney and conservative commentator Michelle Maples. And closing us out, Charles Blaine, founder of Urban Reform. Let's begin. We are exactly 100 days out from the November 7th election, and new numbers from the UH Hobby School are daunting for much of the field. They show State Senator John Whitmire and Congresswoman Sheila Jackson Lee maintaining a 30-point margin as they move toward a likely December runoff. I said likely, but not certain. Rice political analyst Mark Jones says it is still possible candidates back in the pack can catch fire.
Right now, we have a two-horse race between John Whitmire and Sheila Jackson Lee, and then about a half dozen other candidates who are far behind with theoretical potential to enter the runoff, but right now it doesn't look likely at all.
Panel, a critical finding in the Hobby School polling was Jackson Lee's so-called negatives, with a whopping 48% of voters in the survey maintaining an unfavorable opinion of the Congresswoman. Charles Blaine, you've been following this. What's your take 100 days out?
Yeah, I mean, listen, I think people are still waking up to the race. We haven't seen very many debates. I think there have been three, and they've been kind of interest group debates more than kind of general debates about what issues are going on in the city. So I think as people wake up, they're going to start to get more involved. I'm curious, Mark, for his poll having such a split between the top two candidates and the rest, it's interesting for him to say that he thinks there's still room for others to catch up. So it's going to be interesting to watch what they do. I still haven't heard much robust debate. I feel like it's kind of sleepy, as it usually is, and so I'm waiting for things to pick up.
Okay, and talking to some of the camps, Bob, they have said, look, those negatives for Sheila Jackson Lee, it's a talking point for us. We're saying we don't think she can beat anybody in a runoff, and Houston voters need to be looking at alternatives to take on Whitmire. Thoughts?
Well, first off, don't doubt Sheila Jackson Lee for a minute on voter turnout. And runoff elections are all about voter turnout. She knows how to do that. So it'll be interesting to see. I got attacked on this show a couple of weeks ago for saying it was a two-person race. It clearly is a two-person race at this point. Now, that doesn't mean that somebody can't catch fire and maybe move up to 10 or 15 points and make sure to force the runoff, but it really doesn't look like that's going to happen at this point.
Okay, Tamara Bell, you are a lifelong friend of the Congresswoman. You've known her. You've watched her in a very clear-eyed manner in campaigns. What do you think she does with these numbers?
I think with these numbers that she will do fine. What people don't understand is that she's been campaigning for 26 years. She comes home every weekend. She goes to funerals that people wouldn't even speak to or don't even know. She has a very hands-on with her constituency. So therefore, what others have to spend for a vote, she doesn't have to spend for a vote because they've known her so long, and in their time of need, she has been there. And when you're looking at a poll, if I recall, the Hobby poll during the Lena Hidalgo and Alex Mueller race with 200 people was saying that it was going to be a 10% votes, and then it was like, oh, Alex might win and all this. So look, polls are polls, and that we know. But what you all don't know, Houston, is you can get in this race up until August the 24th. And I have heard there's a third horse that's going to join the pack. So let's not say what it looks like now. Let's say after the deadline is over.
Shell, what are your take?
I think we have two venerable competitors, and somebody that I know personally, John Whitmire, and certainly working with Sheila Jackson Lee in the community for decades. Both are great leaders. I think they are going to be the next mayor. I do think that tomorrow's right. We've got a list of great leaders in the third slots, but I don't see them coming out. So whoever we decide on, both are going to be great for our community.
Michelle Maples, looking forward to December, and let's say it is these two candidates. You know, universally thought that most Republican voters will line up behind John Whitmire, who is perceived as more moderate.
Correct. So I'm going to give tomorrow an aneurysm here, so everybody watch out.
You don't live here,
I
don't care what you say.
I am a never Sheila-er. I mean, it could be between Sheila and the devil himself in December, and I'd be like, well, let's hear the devil out. Let's hear what he has to say. Because, I mean, she's a career politician, just like John. However, she is, I mean, her on every issue, I have a fundamental disagreement, and I have a fundamental disagreement about how she behaves out in public.
I understand. That's how I am about Trump. I'm with you, girl. Honey, I'm with you.
It's the same thing.
I mean
that's right,
that's
tomorrow.
right.
It's the same thing.
All right, Charles, you know, if it does come down to these two, do you see Republicans coming out to vote for John Whitmire?
Be honest.
No, I mean, if it comes down to the two, yeah, for sure.
Did they come out for Alex?
Listen, I think when you're looking at the city and they know that they have two choices and they're two Democrats, then yeah, they're going to pick the Democrat who aligns most with their values, particularly on the public safety issue. So I think in the runoff, that is what would happen. And it's going to come down to a turnout thing like runoffs always do, like Bob says. And so it's going to be who's able to capture people's attention and keep it through the holiday season and keep them excited about what their candidacy means for the future of Houston.
All right. Time to catch fire for those in the back of the pack. We're going to hear from Gilbert Garcia, who's wealthy in his own right, Latino. We've never had a Latino mayor. What do you think of Gilbert Garcia? And you're going to hear more in a second.
You know, I've known Gilbert in the community. I know his wife. They're good leaders. You think about people like a Bob Lanier or a Bill White, who were political unknowns and thrust into the mayor leadership roles. I think he would be a great contender, but he's got a ways to go.
Okay, he is, while a former Metro chair, also an outsider. Is that something people are looking for?
I think people would like to see an outsider in Houston. It's been such a quagmire for years, decades, with all the perceived corruption in the last administration down there, in the current administration, I should say, soon to be the last administration. So it might be interesting to see, but you know, your episode on Metro this week, where you get on this bus and there's nobody riding it. You know, so okay, he's got experience in that. It's not hot on the bus. Matter of fact, homeless people might want to get on the bus to cool off.
Mobile cooling centers.
But they're not even on that. So, you know, they can't even get people to get out of the heat.
All right, we're going to leave it right there. Still to come, a heavy month ahead for embattled Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton, facing not one but two prosecutions. And in our Sunday survey, we're asking viewers whether they believe Ken Paxton will beat all the charges against him or be forced to leave office. Once again, tell us what you think. Vote on our webpage, fox26houston.com. Click on poll at the top of the page, or tell 26 using our news app. Up next, he's a mayoral candidate looking to catch hold, the attention of voters weary of career politicians. My one-on-one conversation with Gilbert Garcia is coming on the other side of this break. Welcome back. When it comes to experience and, frankly, money in the bank, mayoral candidate Gilbert Garcia may be best positioned to mount a serious challenge to the frontrunners. Currently a distant third in the polling, Garcia says he'll soon be mounting a blitzkrieg to let Houstonians know they have a viable option who is not a career politician.
That is a very serious issue.
Longtime Houstonian and mayoral candidate Gilbert Garcia successfully manages a $22 billion bond fund. It's a skill set he's offering the city, which according to experts is heading into financial hardship.
It cannot pay its bills. There's far too much incompetency going in City Hall. I think we've lost the trust of the people. We've got to bring it back. We've got to get under the shenanigans. It's almost like an expectation that the way to do business in the city of Houston is pay to play, and I want to stop that practice.
A harsh assessment of the leadership delivered by outgoing Mayor Sylvester Turner, who Garcia says made many promises but kept few. If elected, the Yale graduate with a degree in economics is pledging top-to-bottom auditing of every city department in search of waste and inefficiency.
Crime is very high. People don't feel safe. And they don't even want to go shopping anymore to places because they don't feel safe. The roads, what happened to being the pothole mayor? The roads are exactly the same condition, if not worse.
As for improving public safety, Garcia proposes a paradigm shift in policing.
Number one, you need greater visibility. And number two, you've got to get to crime faster. And so what does that mean? If you look at the firefighter model, they have stations throughout the city. Why? Because they already know to get to the fire the fastest, you got to be spread throughout the city. I would bring back much more community policing, and I would really bring back visibility of police officers throughout the city, because the deterrent is for people to know, aha, there's much more police security in the neighborhood.
This city has challenges. How do you make Houston attractive for outside businesses and new folks to move in? Because our population growth is flat.
Is zero. And people don't recognize that is a very serious issue, because that then leads to revenue declines in the future, which leads to a vicious self-fulfilling spiral and more people moving to the suburbs. And the reason it's more pressing is because people are moving to Texas. They're just not coming to Houston. And people are moving to the region. They're just going to Brazoria County. They're going elsewhere and not Houston. So that makes it even worse. So what do we need to do to turn the corner? First, we need to bring transparency back to the city. We need to run the city better. I think every department needs to be on the table. Every single department. We got to consolidate departments, and we got to figure out how things are really operating and where are the troubles. I think you've got to get your hands around this housing department and health department, because the housing department has just been a mess, in my opinion, and it's really ripe for troubles and shenanigans. And we need to get to the heart of it. I think we need to redo the entire procurement process so people can have confidence that we're going to be doing business with people who deserve and win the business for the betterment of the citizens. And it starts with a very strong tone at the top. The mayor has to set a strong tone at the top that says, it is a new day. We will not be doing business the same way it's been. And that's what I'm going to do.
A judicial reckoning this upcoming week for a 2022 election marred by malfunctions, delay, and ballot shortages. Welcome back. A judicial reckoning this upcoming week for a 2022 election marred by malfunctions, delay, and ballot shortages. Erin Lunsford, a Republican candidate for district court judge, lost her race last November by a little more than 2,700 votes. Lunsford is among 20 would-be GOP office holders who contend the irregularities were widespread and severe enough to warrant a new election. Panel, at the core of these cases is the contention that enough voters were turned away at the polling places and enough questionable ballots allowed to alter the outcome. Charles, I'm going to start with you. You've seen the arguments in this case. How do you think they'll fare in court?
I mean, listen, I think that Erin Lunsford and her team, as well as a lot of the other candidates, most of the other candidates, because it's the same argument being made for the group of other ones, have a strong argument. We all witnessed the election. We saw the issues that went down. And so I think it's going to be interesting as this proceeds starting next week. We're going to start to see stuff trickle out that the public is going to get a better idea of what happened in November. And then also last week we saw Alex Mueller come out after a long time of being relatively publicly silent. She's pushed the state to kind of release their audit because they were supposed to be auditing the 2022 elections as well. And we've heard nothing from the state since November, and so she's starting to push them, and that's a whole other kind of piece to the puzzle in trying to figure out what happened last November. And so we're starting to see some things move, and I think as summer goes on and fall comes in, we're going to see some more.
Tomorrow you spend a lot of time at the polls. Do you think there's enough here to order a new election?
Witness at the West Gray poll where I was at 6:45 in the morning, as a line was out the door on West Gray and down to the fences. When the doors opened at 7 a.m., 10 out of 50 machines were working. 10 out of 50 at the largest voting poll in Texas, 10 out of 50. And people left and said they were not going to be able to vote because they had just got off work and they were stopping by to vote before they went home. I absolutely believe this needs to be delved into deeper, because if they would have this happen at West Gray, surely it is not the only poll. And I mean, there were plenty of people who left, who even came and saw the line and saw what they were dealing with and how long the line was and how long you had to wait, that they left. So I definitely believe that there is something there that they need to discover what is going on. And if you only lost by a couple thousand, I'll be in that fight too.
What's your point, Chow?
Oh, I agree. I mean, I think that if you are in the fight and you're down by a few thousand votes, of course you're in a contest. But here's what I argue, and I think we're all pretty informed citizens here. You go to the voting ballot and you look at 8 pages and there's just a list of different judges and you have no idea who these judges are. That's the bigger problem when it comes to these issues of going to the ballots and figuring out who you want to vote for. I mean, there were lists and lists of judicial positions that you are like, who is this person? How am I going to vote for it? So I think a lot of voters just went, okay, D, R, I'll do this. Those are the bigger issues we need to look at as well.
Okay, Michelle Maples, you watched all this go down from the other side of the country, although this is your community. As you heard about these irregularities, and there were many, and it was in back-to-back elections after, you know, a debacle of a primary. Did you get the feeling that this was going to end up in court?
Yes, absolutely, and as it should. This is what I don't understand, okay? Harris County, with all of its resources, I mean, very few people actually show up to vote when you look at the population of Houston, Texas. And this is what I absolutely don't understand. It is illegal not to vote in the country of Germany. So they have 100% turnout, and they don't have these problems. And we literally do everything better than the Germans do. And so how is Harris County having these sorts of issues? It doesn't make any sense, other than there were shenanigans being covered up by incompetence. And so I am very interested to see how this trial turns out.
All right, Bob Price, I've known you a long time now. You're pretty dedicated to the facts. You're also married to a pretty sharp lawyer. You know what's gone down here. Do you believe there's enough there to order a new election?
Oh, absolutely. There's enough there. The evidence is very clear, and you know, all of my colleagues here have all kind of laid out what happened. But let's remember why this happened. The why this happened is because Judge Lena Hidalgo and the Harris County Commissioner's Court stripped the constitutional authority away from 2 elected officials, the county clerk and the tax assessor collector's office, stole that authority away from them, and created this completely incompetent, what appears to be politically motivated voter suppression program to turn away voters in Harris County and disrupt this elective process. Yes, there absolutely needs to be a new election.
All right, we're going to leave it right there. Still ahead, the undoing of the ultimate sweetheart deal. Could Hunter Biden actually be held accountable for years of criminal behavior?
This initial deal was a sweetheart deal. It, again, confirms people's belief that there's a double standard of justice.
Texas Senator John Cornyn reacting to a development which stunned many. The decision by a federal judge to at least temporarily reject a plea deal which inflicted no prison time on presidential son Hunter Biden, despite evidence of felonious tax evasion and fraud spanning more than a decade. What's more, Biden's lawyers claimed their purported agreement with the Justice Department would preempt the prosecution of any still developing cases against Hunter, sort of a get-out-of-jail-free card. Panel, I'm going to venture that is the kind of over-the-top lenience none of us would be offered for similar criminal behavior. You agree with that, Tamara?
Absolutely, but I mean, to sit up there and say there's a double standard in justice like this just came about when you have black men going to jail for stealing $10 and you have Enron steal 10 million, 20 million and get 4 months at Club Med. Come on, this ain't new news. This is the standard for justice generally for the privileged and those non-privileged. If you ain't locking, clocking dollars the way they are, or you not kin to somebody that high, you gonna be rolling in the deep. I mean, Attica, what's the other one in Kentucky? Sing Sing.
Rikers Island.
Thank you. I mean, this is not new news. This is the standard. There is 2 scales of justice, one for just us and the other one for the rest of us. That is the 2 scales of justice.
All right, Michelle Maples, were you surprised that this Trump-appointed judge said, this deal is not one I'm ready to sign off on.
Yeah, so this typically never happens. So I spent a little bit of time as a criminal defense attorney. I was not a defendant tomorrow, okay? I was an attorney. And I never got a plea deal rejected. But when we dove a little deeper into this story, the attorneys really didn't have it together on this either. There was a big misunderstanding, so they say. This promise not to prosecute for crimes that will be found to have happened after investigation between the years of 2011 and 2019 apparently was not actually part of the deal, and both of the attorneys said, okay, no deal. As the judge said, okay, y'all got 30 days, get it together, and come back to me with the real deal. But here's the issue, is that we would never be given this treatment. None of us ever. We would be sitting in federal prison having, I don't know what people in federal prison do, maybe getting a master's degree in federal prison is probably what we would all be doing.
Bob Price, I'm guessing you agree with that.
Well, I agree with that completely. And the thing about this agreement is it wasn't part of the plea agreement. It was hidden inside this deferred adjudication on the firearms charge that they were giving him another get-out-of-jail-free card where other people would go to jail for up to 3 years for lying on your ATF form when you buy a handgun. It was hidden in there. The judge had to repeatedly ask the question about this deal to finally get them to come out and show where it was, and it's never put in there. It's always part of the plea agreement of the crime that's being addressed by the court. They snuck it in. It's just dirty judicial politics going on here, and you know, Donald Trump isn't getting the same treatment that Hillary Clinton got or that the Biden crime family is getting.
All right, Chow. You know, addicts who get clean, part of getting sober is making amends, and there is a vast part of America that said that's not a making amends, Hunter Biden.
Well, there are a couple things. I agree wholeheartedly with Tamara, which is the criminal justice system is broken, and this is another example of class and race being an issue. Absolutely. If you have money, if you're white, you're probably going to go up the ladder in terms of accountability. That's right. If you're black and brown and poor, you may not. So when we look at things like justice in the criminal justice system, that is what we see. So it's like no surprise to a lot of people. On the issue of addictions are really, really tough. People make really terrible choices. They hit rock bottom. They do their time. They make their amends. I think we do need to be more sympathetic to those who are suffering from the addiction, the disease of alcoholism, of drug abuse, and substance abuse. But in this case, you know, it is an issue of race and class.
Okay, we're going to hear from Charles in overtime on this. Still to come, decision time coming for Attorney General Ken Paxton facing trial before the Senate in one town and felony fraud allegations in another. What are the odds he beats it all?
Where Harris County is a neutral playing field. I mean, there are millions of potential jurors. They come from all walks of life, all political persuasions, and there will be a good cross-section of the community. So you'll get a better jury in Harris County than anywhere else in Texas.
Well-known Houston attorney and Ken Paxton prosecutor Kent Schaefer talking recently about the long-awaited securities fraud trial for our state's top law enforcement officer. After a change of venue to Houston from Collin County, the decades-old case appears set to get underway sooner rather than later. Meantime, Paxton's impeachment team has filed motions seeking to disqualify certain Democratic senators from sitting in judgment citing their alleged bias. Sadly, at least for us in the media, folks on both sides are adhering to Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick's pretrial gag order, the result being zero hyperbolic pretrial verbal gamemanship from the likes of opposing superstar lawyers Tony Busby and Rusty Hardin. Panel, we are a month away from the historic opening arguments, and I'm eager to hear your thoughts. Let's start with you, Bob Price.
Yes, sir. I tell you, this is going to be an interesting thing. As a journalist, though, I'm with you. I don't like the gag order. You know, where all my headlines going to come from. So, but from a trial perspective, it's probably a pretty good idea. While we're at the gag order, why don't we also stop the political contributions coming into these senators and the lieutenant governor from potentially influential parties on either side of this issue? That's highly inappropriate from a visibility and perception standpoint. The criminal trial that's going to happen, that's been a long time coming, and the Attorney General's used his power and influence and money to stop that from moving forward. It's finally going to move forward, and I think Harris County is a good place. I think he'll get a fair trial here. The facts will come out, and then the jury will make a decision on what they want to do.
Yeah, Charles, 86% of our viewers believe that he's going to beat it all. This issue, Ken Paxton and his legal problems have split the Republican Party. What's going on?
Yeah, I mean, it's split. It's going to remain split. I think this really exposed a crack or a divide that's been there for some time, but it's really just kind of exposed it to the public. But I do think Bob's right. You know, especially with the campaign contributions, there should have been or should be some sort of blackout period around this trial in the same way that we see during legislative sessions, because you do have money flowing in that could potentially influence the way people look at this. I do like the idea of the gag order, though, because we kept seeing this back and forth, and it was like you were getting whiplash. Every 5 minutes there was another press release out here, and I think it kind of clouded the public perception of it, because you see a headline, you see a press release, and some people take that as fact when it could really just be the attorneys, you know, blowing smoke. And so I'm kind of glad that it calmed down for now, and that when they present things, we'll be able to see the facts as they're presented with a live stream trial. All
right, Michelle Maples, no appeals, at least in the Senate impeachment, you know, one and done, 2 weeks, very heavy political forces. What's your take?
Oh, this is going to be the most entertaining TV show, you know, that we're going to watch, especially with showmen like Rusty Harding and Tony Busby. I mean, strap in. This is going to be primetime, you know, television with those two attorneys. But what I find interesting is the timing of it all, that finally, 9 years later, we're going to trial on the criminal case. As this impeachment thing is heating up, it's like, oh, is that a coincidence? Because I don't think it is.
All right, Chow, you've been following this for a decade.
You know, here's the thing, is great politics, all the thing, but what is the impact of the Attorney General's position on the people of Texas? He is the legal counsel of this entire state. He heads a lot of things, and a lot of things affect people, impact the Attorney General's office. I think about clients that I serve who are trying to get child support, and the child support system is backed up. You can't get a hold of the office. You don't know what your child support is coming. It is weakening the office, and I liken it to a corporation and a CEO is under fire. And what does that do to the people under that department? How does that affect morale? How does that affect the day-to-day operations? That's what I think the citizens of Texas are really concerned about, and that's how it impacts them.
All right, Tamara Bell, kept you for last for a good reason. How confident are you that what is right is going to prevail here?
Not one damn bit of confidence. This is Hunter Biden, Texas version 101. Pop your popcorn, like she said. She right. This is going to be must-see TV, because you got the star Texas lawyers who love to put on a show showing up for this trial. But this is a perfect example of what I said about just us and justice. Two different things, because this man has been under indictment for over 9 years. Do you think if this was Sheila or Sylvester or any of them, this would have went on? Heck no. This is how they do it. The only reason they coming after him is because he said, give me $3 million of the taxpayers' dollars to pay off my workers for catching me in a lie. And they say, oh no, let's get this fool. That's the only reason we have.
All right, we're going to be watching it closely. Still ahead, more evidence we humans have company in the universe. We'll discuss what an intelligence agency whistleblower told Congress about extraterrestrial explorers. But up next, trouble deepens for former President Trump with fresh allegations he ordered critical evidence destroyed. Welcome back. Former President Trump beset by a relentless pack of prosecutorial hounds. Got more bad news this week as Mr. Trump waits to learn whether he faces charges for his conduct and actions before and during the January 6, 2021 assault on the Capitol. He received news of a superseding indictment connected to his alleged illegal retention of highly classified material. This latest charge alleges the former president ordered the destruction of security footage at his Mar-a-Lago estate ahead of an FBI investigation. Panel, I'm no lawyer, but that sounds like pretty reckless obstruction if prosecutors can prove it actually happened. Let's go to our lawyer, Michelle Maples.
Absolutely. Yeah, you can't destroy evidence. That's a crime, and it's a big federal crime, especially after you are served with a subpoena saying, oh, we need this information. Oh, don't destroy it. And then you turn around and do that. That'll get you in federal prison. Not if you're Biden, though, but I mean, or Hillary Clinton. Trump, he'll end up in prison because of this two-way street. But again, beyond a reasonable doubt, y'all, this has to be proven beyond a reasonable doubt that he did in fact order destruction of evidence. And if he did, I mean, throw the book at him. I mean, you should, you know, I mean, follow the law, y'all. It's not real hard. Why do we keep getting politicians who are under indictment? What are we doing?
All right, Bob. You know, do you think they're just throwing the sink at the former president right now?
Well, destruction of evidence is, as Michelle says, a very serious crime. I'm old enough to remember the missing 18 and a half minutes from the Nixon Watergate tapes, and that was the turning point for the end of the Nixon administration. That's when the Republicans on the House Judiciary Committee went, we got to get real about this, and that's what ultimately led to his resignation. If this is true, and again, you know, we don't have a lot of faith in the credibility of the Department of Justice at this point in time, and particularly this prosecutor, but if this is true, it's a very serious offense, and it could cost him dearly.
All right, Charles, the propensity of prosecutions from all over the place, is it having any impact on those Republican primary voters who are, you know, would normally support Trump, but say, hey, I don't know if we can ride this horse?
The polling doesn't suggest it is. I mean, he's still doing very well in the polls, and you know, in the closest candidate to him is seemingly faltering every chance he gets. And so, no, it doesn't really seem like it's having a big impact. But I do think the big part, a big part of this, they're going to keep throwing everything they can at him because he is the front runner and because they don't want to see him president. Whether or not he hands them the stuff to be able to throw at him is another story. But you've got these otherwise innocent civilians who are now getting wrapped up in this stuff, like the valet and the property manager, who, if you imagine yourself in their position, you're working for the former president of the United States, and you get asked to do something and your livelihood depends on it. You might not know you're breaking the law or not, or you may have some sort of idea, but you don't know that it's going to end up being this and that you're going to be investigated by the FBI. And so you might get caught up in this. So you have to think about all these other people who are just adjacent to him who are now getting wrapped up in this. And I think that's really frustrating. And also it's a reminder not to speak voluntarily with the FBI, because that's what happened with the property manager.
I love to have Chow on our panels because she can bring a different perspective. I mean, she, like, can crawl in people's heads. She's, you know, a licensed social worker, therapist. What's going on with this guy?
Exactly what I'm thinking is exactly what Charles just said, is the collateral damage of the victims that Donald Trump leaves behind. It is time that his hair matches the orange jumpsuit he should see. He should be wearing moving forward, because this guy thinks he's above the law. Politics aside, you just don't tell your employees to go do something illegal. And to Charles' point, of course, if you're an employee, you're going to say yes. How many times was I said to, you know, people I worked with as an executive leader, hey, can you go shred this real quick? Not thinking, and as an employee, you think, okay, I'm going to do that. All
right. We'll talk about it more in overtime. Still ahead, they said no to the COVID vaccine and lost their military careers because of it. Now that the mandates are gone, should the punishment of those who refused be reversed?
It will allow service members dismissed over the vaccine mandate to seek reinstatement or a change in their discharge status. They've ended the vaccine mandate, and it's not fair to the over 8,000 servicemen and women dismissed for a policy DOD no longer believes is necessary.
Texas Senator Ted Cruz unsuccessfully urging fellow lawmakers in the upper chamber to unwind punitive action against service members fired by their superiors for refusing an injection of the COVID-19 vaccine. 3 Republicans joined Democrats in voting down Cruz's amendment, including Louisiana's Bill Cassidy, who has in the past characterized the vaccine refusals as a defiance of a direct order. Panel, a lot of water has flowed under the vaccine bridge since that order was given and refused by thousands. If it was up to you, how would you vote on this? Bob Price, you served our nation.
Well, as a veteran, I have very mixed feelings on this. You know, I remember standing in line in basic training and getting the injection of God only knows what vaccines into my arm with a gun, you know, and watching them rip open some guy's arm that moved wrong when he was getting the shot. I remember the annual mandatory flu vaccines and the mandatory vaccines when you would get deployed overseas. All of those things are for your protection, but they're also for the protection of the force. And that's what the COVID vaccine was about. Military readiness and imagine a COVID outbreak in an infantry division that's deployed in Iraq or Afghanistan that would be debilitating to the entire unit. So I get that side of it, but I don't think it should have been, this vaccine is different. This vaccine was a rush through severe side effects that were not informed people about, and they should not get a less than honorable discharge for that. And reinstatement, I think, might be a good point at this point in time.
All right, Michelle Maples, you are not in the service, but you are certainly married to the service. And quick disclosure, Colonel Maples, you are not representing his beliefs.
That is right.
Okay.
These are the beliefs of Michelle Maples. So with saying that the defiance of a direct order. So my husband will follow whatever commander-in-chief and will do any order that is given to him, with the exception he will not do anything illegal, he will not do anything immoral, and he will not do anything unethical. Now that third prong, unethical, I think that these individuals who were let go, the 8,000 service members who were let go, have an argument that the vaccination mandate was unethical, and they should absolutely get their jobs back. They should re-enlist if they can, and if they were given an other than honorable discharge, that follows them around for the rest of their life.
Yep.
That stops them from getting security clearances and jobs they won't be able to get, you know, an interview for because of that. So good for Ted Cruz for going on this, and that the senator from Louisiana needs to be primaried. Get him out. Jump in here tomorrow.
I agree with Michelle. Make sure y'all post this right now, because I agree with Michelle. One of the reasons I'm not in the military, because as she said, you got to do what they say do when you tell them to do it. I agree that this was unethical. This was not like any other vaccine. This was not tested. They had just taken this out the lab. It was still dripping by the time they brought it over there. So I think that they should be reinstated, and she is right, a dishonorable, anything other than honorable, I promise you, it follows you like a track. Same thing when you go to jail at 16. It's hard to get that off your record. I think these people have a valid fight. I think the mistake was having Ted Cruz bring it, because no matter what he bring, ain't nobody going down with it. So.
15 seconds, you want it?
Okay, the social worker and me might have been persuaded by what this panel just said, because we forget that we were in a pandemic, a public health crisis times 20, 30-fold, and people really, their lives were at stake. And so these servicemen and women defied orders. It's as simple as that. And I understand second chances, and I understand what you're saying, so you might have persuaded me on that point.
Okay, we're going to leave it there. Up next, that stunning testimony about extraterrestrials. A whistleblower telling us what he claims our government will not. Welcome back. As many of you no doubt believe, there is mounting evidence we humans are not alone. Check out this congressional whistleblower testimony from former U.S. intelligence official David Grush discussing crashed UFOs.
If you believe we have crashed craft, stated earlier, do we have the bodies of the pilots who piloted this craft?
As I've stated publicly already in my News Nation interview, biologics came with some of these recoveries, yeah.
Were they, I guess, human or non-human biologics?
Non-human, and that was the assessment of people with direct knowledge on the program I talked to that are currently still on the program.
Okay, folks, I guess they think we can't handle the truth. Seriously now, what do you make of these accounts? Are you all in or taking them with a grain of salt? Charles Blaine.
I mean, I'm just wondering, you know, Trump took all these documents. Why couldn't he take the documents on this and release them? It's like, you know, listen, I think a couple of years ago, a testimony like this would have just been on the news every single second of every single day. I feel like nowadays there's so much going on that somehow this got buried, and just, because like a lot of people I've talked to this week, they were like, oh, really? This happened? I don't know. I have no idea what's out there. That's all.
Go ahead, Tamara.
No, I don't believe this. That B-2 bomber, a lady in Dayton years ago, one of them was having some problems and she followed it. The military said it wasn't her. Her family sued. They lost. All the time, it was what they were working on. This, I believe, is made here on this planet. And they say, look, don't tell them what we're doing. We don't want them to know. I don't believe that. But anyway, happy birthday, Miss Kincaid. You made 90. I'm so proud of you. I love you, Dorothy Kincaid. Okay, that's what I'm
All right, Bob Price, you served in the Air Force.
Yeah, I was in the public affairs office at Cannon Air Force Base, and two things we didn't talk about: the presence or lack of presence of nuclear weapons and UFOs. Verboten, you didn't speak about it at all. I watched some of this testimony, and this guy was interesting, but the more interesting was the F-18 pilot who went down and nosedived onto what they, perfectly calm seas except for this white water underneath this vessel. And all of a sudden, as he was approaching it at a nosedive angle, it was at 12,000 feet, boom, it's gone. It's now 60 miles away in less than a minute. That's not anything made on this planet.
All right, Maples, you buying in?
I'm in. Oh, I love it. I love it. First day, okay, if I am president of the United States and I'm sitting in the Oval Office and I'm just thinking, wow, these people, I can't believe they voted me in. What a bunch of idiots. I want to see on my desk right now all of the UFO files. I don't care who killed Kennedy. I don't care. Give me the UFO stuff right now. I want to look at it. And I don't want to talk to the guy who heard something. I want to talk to the guy who pulled the biology out. I want to, let me see it.
They're talking about tearing these things down and reverse engineering. What do you think, Chow?
Hey, as a child and lover of E.T., I believe, and I still believe, we have 5,000 solar systems in our ethos. I mean, what makes us think we're the only ones? Come on.
I'm with you. When we come back, the battle over border security heating up with President Biden's lawyers suing Texas over river buoys and Senator John Cornyn blasting back. On tonight's edition of Texas, the issue is Senator John Cornyn offers fierce reaction after the Biden Justice Department sues to remove our state's floating barriers on the Rio Grande.
It's a sick joke for the Biden administration not to do their job and then turn around and sue the state of Texas when the governor and the legislature try to do theirs.
You can hear a great deal more from Senator Cornyn tonight at 9:45 right here on Fox 26. Panel, let's talk about the border. I was speaking with Bob earlier. We got the Biden administration calling us brutal, and yet at the same time we're sending, countless number of cluster bombs to Ukraine. It seems like a, double standard there. Bob, what's your take on what's shaking out?
What's brutal is the Biden's open border policy that's putting thousands and thousands of people's lives at risk. That is Texas DPS found a 5-year-old little girl this week down on the border whose mother had died in the United States just days earlier, and she was abandoned in Mexico, and these other women brought her across the border. That's the kind of devastation and chaos that's going on down at the border. This is going to be an interesting case if it actually goes to trial. The Department of Justice is suing under a navigation authority and under impact on the environment. This is a constitutional issue. The United States Constitution and the Texas Constitution give the governor the authority to repel an invasion of this country. Governor Abbott declared that the state is under an invasion. Now, the federal government sued Arizona and won about the trailers that Governor Ducey put in place, but Governor Ducey had never declared an invasion. This is a different set of circumstances. These buoys that are being put in place will actually save lives.
All right, Cornyn's also talking about 85,000 kids that have just disappeared. All right, thanks to this week's panel, and thanks you for joining us. The conversation continues on a national level next on Fox News Sunday with Shannon Bream. And we'll keep talking here with What's Your Point Overtime, streaming live on fox26houston.com and on our Facebook page. From all of us here, have a safe and healthy week.